Let's talk about ancient Chinese marriage, a beautiful family merger where the groom's side gained a daughter-in-law and the bride's side lost a daughter permanently. In theory, marriage was a harmonious bond between two clans. In practice, it was a one-way street where men called the shots and women got run over. Ancient Chinese society was unapologetically patriarchal. The word for wife in Chinese literally comes from a character that means to obey. Romantic, right? Once married, a woman wasn't just joining a new family. She was absorbed into it like a drop of water into the ocean. She had no legal identity of her own. Her status, honor, and even her meals depended on her husband. If he gets promoted, congrats, she gets promoted too, as his accessory. And when it came to divorce, oh, that was the easy part, at least for him. Marriage required matchmakers, dowries, ceremonies, and lots of red paper. Divorce, on the other hand, just needed him to say, "I'm done. That's it." No judge, no forms, no awkward group therapy. Just, "You're out." And she was. In fact, the ancient term for divorce literally meant dismiss the wife, like firing a servant or tossing an expired coupon. But ancient China wasn't completely lawless. There were rules for when a woman could be kicked out. Enter the 7 grounds for divorce. Rooted in Confucian classics and formalized in Han law, these were basically the 7 deadly sins. For wives only. Break just one, and boom, marriage over. Feelings not required. Let's take a look. First on the list, not bowing low enough to your husband's parents. In ancient China, once a woman got married, her in-laws basically outranked her own parents. If she so much as rolled her eyes at her mother-in-law, that was considered a moral crime, called defying virtue. Second, if she couldn't produce an heir, she was out. Because in ancient China, marriage wasn't about love, it was about making babies, preferably male ones, to keep the ancestral worship line going strong. If the womb stayed empty too long, the husband could legally find a new model. Though, to be fair, later dynasties preferred just adding a concubine rather than going through the paperwork of divorce. Efficiency. Third, cheating. If a wife slept with another man, that was seen as chaos in the clan. Because now, gasp, the family couldn't tell if Junior was really theirs. But don't get your hopes up about gender equality. Husbands sleeping around is totally fine. Number 4, being jealous. Specifically, being jealous when your husband brings home a concubine. If a wife dared to question why her husband was adding extra women to the family like Pokemon cards, she could be kicked out for disrupting household harmony. So yes, not only did you have to accept being replaced, you had to smile about it too. Fifth, having a serious illness. Because serious illnesses make you unfit for ancestral rituals. You couldn't stand at the altar or offer incense properly, and that was enough to get the boot. Because nothing says "till death do us part," like "you're making my ancestors uncomfortable." Number 6, talking too much. If a woman had opinions, or even worse, talked back, she was a threat to family unity. In-laws preferred their daughters-in-law quiet, obedient, and invisible. And if she dared gossip or stir drama, the official reason was causing division among kin. And finally, stealing. If a wife was caught stealing, especially from her own household, she was out. This could mean anything from taking a few coins to giving food to her poor brother back home. Even spending household money without her husband's approval counted as theft. So yes, buying yourself new shoes without asking your husband first is grounds for divorce. Nothing says true love like needing clearance to spend from your own family's savings account. Now, if you're thinking, wow, that all sounds incredibly one-sided, you're absolutely right. These 7 rules only applied to wives. The husband, of course, could cheat lie, gamble, or throw temper tantrums at the dinner table, and nobody blinked. And the best part? Many of these rules were delightfully vague. What counted as jealousy? Rolling your eyes? Crying? What did talking too much mean? Asking too many questions? Saying no? What exactly was considered theft? Using money from the rice jar? Giving your cousin a spare blanket? Even serious illness wasn't clearly defined. Was a lingering fever enough? Or did it need to be something dramatic, like bleeding out of the eyes during an ancestor worship ritual? In the end, it all boiled down to the husband's personal opinion. If he felt she was annoying, sickly, too loud, or just no longer useful, he could use one of the 7 outs as a convenient excuse to kick her out. Before you lose all faith in ancient Chinese law, meet its rare act of mercy, the 3 exceptions, or the 3 don't kick-outs. Exception 1. She has nowhere to go. If, when you married her, her parents were alive, but now they're gone, and the family she came from no longer exists, you're not allowed to just kick her out and let her wander the streets. Because as much as the system didn't care about her happiness, they did care about loose women becoming a societal nuisance. Exception 2. Mourning together. If you and your wife had recently spent 3 full years mourning the death of one of your parents, yep, 3 years, the Confucian deluxe mourning package, you couldn't dump her afterward. Because if a wife spends 3 years in itchy white mourning robes, no haircut, no laughter, alongside her husband, she's probably earned at least a little protection. Let's call it a grief bond. Exception 3. You used to be poor. If you married her back when you were broke and pathetic, and now you're suddenly rich and important, you're not allowed to trade her in for a hotter, fancier model. Because even ancient law understood the concept of a starter wife and wanted to discourage social climbing scumbags. Now, before we light fireworks in celebration, don't get too excited. These protections had fine print. If the wife had a serious disease or committed adultery, boom, all 3 exceptions voided. You could still throw her out without looking back. And if the marriage was deemed morally irreconcilable, no protection. This was the ultimate deal breaker. 5 deadly sins that made divorce mandatory. If any happened, the couple had to split, or they'd be breaking the law. First, the husband assaults or kills the wife's family elders. You know, casual murder of your in-laws. If he beats up or straight up murders her grandparents, uncles, siblings, or cousins, yup, that's a divorce. Second, bloodbath between both families. If either side's parents, grandparents, or siblings start killing each other, then congratulations, your marriage has officially turned into a Shakespearean tragedy, legally unsalvageable. Third, the wife assaults or kills the husband's family elders. The same rule applies both ways. If the wife attacks or kills his precious relatives, the system says, okay, maybe love does have limits. Fourth, incest. If the wife sleeps with her husband's blood relatives, or if the husband hooks up with his mother-in-law, yep, that was an actual clause. Congratulations, your family tree is now a crime scene. Last, the wife tries to murder the husband. Yeah, maybe attempted murder means the marriage isn't working out. In any of these 5 cases, divorce was legally mandatory. So after all those policies, you might have noticed something missing. Love. Yeah, it never came up. Because in ancient China, marriage wasn't about love, chemistry, or compatibility. It was a business deal, a merger between 2 families. Your feelings didn't matter. Your preferences didn't matter. And for women, neither did your dignity, health, or personal freedom. With almost no way to earn their own living, most women had to marry, even if the system was stacked against them. You didn't even get to see your husband before the wedding. It was all arranged by matchmakers based on your birth chart, your family's reputation, and how many teeth you had left. That's why ancient Chinese wives had a saying, If you marry a chicken, follow the chicken. If you marry a dog, follow the dog. If you marry a log, well, just hug the log and get on with it. Because once you were married, that was it. No refunds, no one cared how you felt. Marriage was never about you. It was about duty, status, and keeping the ancestors happy. So next time someone says traditional values, maybe ask, traditional for who?